Alright guys, we're back. We've got some injectors, Siemens 60 pounders. So they're the deckers. Already started pulling the injectors out on the passenger side. Getting ready, almost ready to fire this thing up. And yeah, so I recommended the 60 pounders to the customer before the car came here. It's plenty enough for what his goals are. That 250 kilowatt mark, nice and safe and conservative. Well, this combination, I would say it should make that 300, most definitely. But he only wants a soft tune just to learn, get a feel for it. So we'll be tuning this gate pressure, and then we'll see how we go, where gate pressure is on this, up to about 15 pound, and yeah, we'll go from there. So stay tuned. Gonna take you through the Haltech, setting up the base map, and going through all the settings, and getting this thing to start on E85. And yeah, hopefully I can help you guys out with the Haltech base map tuning. Alright, so they're on. Now get stuck into this side. So make sure when you're pulling out your injectors, you make sure that the O-rings are all on the tops and the bottoms. Alright, so injectors are all installed now. A little tip that I'll advise is when installing new injectors, a little bit of engine oil or Vaseline around the O-rings, and then they just fit in like, or slot in like butter. So yeah, don't put them in dry. They're a bitch. A little bit of engine oil and they slip right in. So that's that. And now we're going to install the NGK plugs. Alright, so John's V6 injectors are in. Lots of wiring has been tackled in this. Lots of fixing wiring, and we're at the stage now where we are ready to almost fire it up. So we've got NGKs, BPR7 EFS, gap to 0.8. Got a couple of extra plugs, so once we start hitting into those wide open throttle pulls, I'll just switch a car off, check a plug, and see how it's see how it looks, see how the timing is, and the fueling. So we've got a couple of extra plugs there. My little marks, they've all been gapped, so that way I know that they're good to put in straight away. So yeah, we'll go put in these, and then we'll get stuck into the base map and getting this thing started up. Hopefully there's no fuel leaks, oil leaks, water leaks, so that way we can get this thing purring. All right, beautiful. So let's get stuck into the tuning. So the car came to me with 98 fuel. It struggled to start. Now we've just gone and done a E85 conversion.
So we're running 2 Bosch 044 pumps. One is going to be staged, and then we've got an in-tank pump, which is a Pierberg low pressure, high volume pump. It's E85 compatible, so up to you if you want to invest a couple $100 in doing the in-tank. It's much more beneficial upgrading the fuel pump to the Pierberg because it's a low pressure. So what you want to do is you want to feed and fill the surge tank, but you don't want to pressurize the surge tank. So I guess do as you will with that information. I recommended it. We've done that to this car as well, and this is going to last a lifetime. Now, we've added a boost controller, and we've added a high boost, low boost switch. All right, so we've got ignition on. Let's go ahead and connect. So again, this is the Haltech Platinum GM Sport for the VN to VR plugin. I can already see an issue. Now, I haven't touched this. This is how the car came to me. So you can see there, perfect example, 92 degrees. So if I had plugged in the, because I did wire up a Spell 16-inch thermo fan on this, if I had plugged in that fuse, this right here would have been triggering the thermo fans. So there's an issue here. We're gonna go through calibrating the sensors, and what I do when I freshly tune a brand new car, I go through everything, and then starting it is the last thing, okay, on my mind. So let's have a look. Yeah, so this to me looks like a base map it doesn't have any boost. So I'm not sure if this car was running before, if it had boost. It doesn't look like it to me. All right, so let's go through setup. All right, 6 cylinders, VE, yep. So this car is using the onboard map sensor. I believe the onboard map sensor is 3 bar. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I know the onboard sensors plenty enough for this. Display RPM max, we're not going to be getting close to that. So 7,000, and we won't be getting close to that either. 70, so this is standard. Yep. Fuel pump prime, only need 2.5 seconds for that. So this here is the injector resistance. Now, as I'm putting in the Siemens, I'm going to test them before I update this, but this is relative to what your injectors are. How you can do this is multimeter, probe in one pin, probe in the other pin of the injector. That will give you the ohms readings, and that's how you'll be able to populate this one here. So base fuel pressure, I am going to have to get the missus out here, and I'm gonna leave the fuel pumps running with the vacuum line off, and all it needs is ignition. So ignition and vacuum line off, and we'll see what the base fuel pressure is there. I like to set it about 50 psi or 48 psi. I think the standard is 47.5, but yeah, anywhere between 45 and 50 is fine. Now ignition, constant charge, this is fine. Beautiful, it's all standard factory stuff. All right, cool. So that's the basics. Now we're getting into the advanced menu here. Now we are going to tick this on, but this is going to come on. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to set this up once I've tuned the map in open loop. So O2 control gives you the ability exactly over here, which is closed loop control. So you can practically drive the car and the ECU will target your target AFR, which is a map over here. So you can say that, I guess, I want to target in cruise, you know, cruise areas 14.5 to 14.7 AFR. I'm not going to go in lambda scale because that's for another time. But yeah, so 14.5 to 14.7 in cruise. And the computer, even though you'll have numbers in your base map, it will actually feed more fuel or take out fuel to match your target in the target AFR. So I set up the tune in open loop, and then once I've got the numbers pretty close. So what I mean by numbers being pretty close is, let's say that you know, at 10 pound, let's just say it's 5,000 or whatever RPM it is. I want it at 10 pound, I want it at about 12.0 to 1180 AFR. So I'm going to adjust the numbers. Now I'm just going to quickly apply this. I'm going to adjust the numbers in here, and while I'm driving, or once I've done a data log, once I've done a pull, I'll then go back in and amend these numbers. Whereas if we're in closed loop, you could have these numbers as is, and the computer is going to meet or chase these numbers as that's your target. So your AFR gauge, whatever it may be reading, let's just say at 10 pounds, it was 15 AFR. Now, 10 pounds is in this area here, so we're targeting 12.1 to 11.9 here, right? Now, the AFRs are at 15. The computer is going to start adding in fuel, which is going to show, I haven't set the page up for this particular tune, but we're going to add in a short-term fuel trim to see how much the computer is actually adding in, and that will give us, well, that's what the benefit of running in closed loop is, because it will chase your target. Different sea level changes, okay, or different temperatures in the air will affect your AFR. So if you were running in open loop, you may see a difference in, you know, a wide open pull on a 30-degree day compared like during the day, so while it's sunny, if it's humid, and then if you were to do the exact same pull, let's say at 1 a.m. in the morning, when it's, you know, you got moisture in the air, it's cold, we're at, you know, freezing temperatures, then the AFR will change. You may have a couple of points off, and that's where the closed loop comes in, because it will tighten up that gap, and it'll try and level out, whether it's day, night, different levels of change. It will try and chase that target for you. So we'll go back in, because we're going to get to that later on. So I'm just going to set up O2 control for now. Now this is turboed, so we're going to set up the overboost, the rev limiter, and the transient throttle. Transient throttle is those initial pressing of the accelerator, or those quick squirts. It will add in extra fuel, and you can tune the smoothness and I guess the response on those little stabs. So that's, I guess, in short, transient throttle. Anti-lag, we're not setting that up. Dual tables, we could set this up, but I've got another easier way of setting this up, and I guess with the dual table, you could do a 98 tune and an E85 tune, but or you could do a max, a different boost level, and so forth. But we're not going to set that up. Not going to set that up. Now, engine protection, it's a must. That's why you go for an aftermarket ECU, because you want protection. So we need to tick that. Fuel corrections, post-start table. You can read this if you like. In short, post-start is, let's say you've started the car up, and actually what we're going to do, we're going to turn the ignition off. So post-start table, let's say the car has you've just cranked it, it's fired up, and for those 10 seconds to 30 seconds of that initial cold start, warm start, we want to add in some fuel, take out some fuel gradually, add in some timing, take out some timing gradually. This is what you can achieve on the post start. So we're having that. Air temperature correction table, yes. If we get into an area where we are fanging the car and it's a 35-degree day outside and intake air temps, you know, through the roof, 80 degrees, 100 degrees, then we want to be able to compensate. So take out some timing, add in some fuel, whatever it may be. Coolant temperature correction table, exactly very similar to the air temperature correction table. You know, if the engine's at 30 degrees, so we've just cold start, we're going to want to set a rev limit of maybe, like, you know, 4,500 or 4,000, because you don't want to be revving it. You don't want to be coming up on boost, you know, at 30 degrees. E85's not even lighting up at that sort of temperature. So yeah, and coolant temperature, it's also, when you go to start it up at 50 degrees or 80 degrees, as the engine is warmer, it will take less fuel. Whereas if it's colder, it'll want more fuel. And especially with E85, it loves fuel on cold start. So yeah, I'll take you through the cold starting and how to go about that. So prime table, dead time. Dead time's for the injectors. Prime table is for the initial cranking fuel for the engine. So that's all good. And then this is ignition correction. So that's good. Okay, sorry. So for the fuel correction, I won't have the zero throttle. It's for the ignition correction. Beautiful. All right, so that's that. Now O2 control. Let me just have a look here. All right, so we've only got one wideband on this, and I'm going to go through this when we start tuning the car. Rev limiter, ignition soft. I like a soft cut, 200 RPM. That's perfect. Sometimes I even do 100 RPM. So, that way, why I like soft and a shorter RPM cut is so that you're not blipping from, like, let's say 6,000 to 5,500, and then it's going 6,000, 5,500. With this, it'll be 6,000, 5,900, 6,000, 5,900, and it's back on. So it's a very shorter span, and I like to have a minimal cut, and I prefer an ignition cut. Overboost. Whoa. Okay. Definitely not going to be 22 on this. So, we're going to set overboost of 18 pound. and boost restore at let's say 15 pounds. Cut time 400. So for this, I do like a larger cut time. If you're gonna hit or if you're gonna overboost, then I want to be able to feel that cut and know that that's exactly what's occurred. So with a 400 millisecond cut, it feels like a hard cut, and the engine will just die, and you'll then know that, hey, I'm pushing it too hard, or the conditions, it's cool, the engine's making a lot of power, then yeah, we want to take it easy. Transient throttle, I don't really touch this. It's usually on point per factory. I'm not going to go through this. You can play around with this and learn it yourself. It's taken a while for me to learn the changes of this, so that's something for you to learn and educate yourself. Engine protection, coolant temperature, 110. Oh, actually no. Yeah, 110. Now, this doesn't have an oil pressure sensor. I do recommend an oil pressure sensor, variable, because my bad, it hasn't. Okay, no, this car will not have an oil pressure sensor. It'll have an oil pressure switch. Oil pressure sensor, variable, then you can add in another safety parameter, which is, you know, the more sensors, the more that you can take advantage of engine protection. I highly recommend the fuel pressure sensor. On this one here, Johnny's opted out, so that's fine. It's always good to have both of these oil pressure and fuel pressure sensors. Oil temperature depends on, I guess, your build if you have that, but we're definitely putting in a engine protection for the AFRs. So with this, I am going to set it up. I guess what this is doing is, this protection here is, let's say we are at a minimum of 8 psi. If we meet 8 psi for 1.5 seconds, the AFRs are over 13.8, then engine protection is going to kick in. All right, I'll play around with that at the end, but this is just something to just get a baseline. Now, this is what is going to occur once engine protection kicks in. So here we can see that it's going to add 5% of fuel. Beautiful. And it's going to take out 5 degrees. Beautiful. Now, it's also going to decrease the duty cycle on the boost controller and take out all the duty. So, you know, if we had 50% of duty cycle on the boost controller, it's gonna just wipe that out, and it's not gonna it's just gonna make gate pressure. Rev limiter range, so this is the span. Yeah, so you can see over here, the rev limiter, it'll drop back to 2,500. So yeah, that's fine. Actually 3K. Beautiful. So that's sorted there. I'm happy with that. All right. What do we have here? Ignition bypass. Okay. Yeah, we're going to turn this off because we don't want the ignition module to control the timing, especially with E85. I like to control the timing because E85 loves timing on cranking. And yeah, so we're going to control the cranking, ignition timing, torque converter. Yep, this is an auto, so this is a turbo 700. So we'll let the computer control the converter lockup. Thermo fan control, beautiful. We're going to set that up. Air conditioner relay. There's no aircon in this car. Check engine light. Yep. Alright, so DPO1 I have set up for boost control, sorry. So boost control. So this is for the electronic boost control. DPO2, we've got the auxiliary fuel pump. Alright, so that's the staged fuel pump, and that's going to open up these up here. Idle stepper motor. I rarely touch this. Warm operation, I like it about 700, maybe even 750. Target 1100. Boost control, I'm not going to go through closed loop. That's something that you guys can play with and learn yourself. I'm going to show you guys open loop. So I'm going to show you that in the open loop table, but that's that. Now, this is the auxiliary fuel pump when it's going to come on. I usually set it up for 2 psi. We're going to set it up for 2 psi now. I may change it, but yeah, that's that. 3000 RPM, 2 pounds. Yep, I'm happy with that. And this is just as long as it's been 1 second and it meets these two, the fuel pump's going to come on, or the second one. All right, thermo fan. Yeah, 90. I don't know what thermostat's in this, but 90's fine, and we'll bring it down to 87. Reason why is with the Spell 16-inch fan, you don't want it just cutting in and cutting out all the time. You want it to stay on for a little bit before it cuts. So I may change this. I'm going to call the customer, see what thermostat's in this. But yeah, that's that. Torque converter lockup. Let's have a look here. 25 and 60 minimum speed. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So what this means is if we are over 70 Ks and under 25% of TPS and the engine's at temp, so over 60, it will lock the converter up. Beautiful, so that's set up. Air conditioner request, no. Generic idle up for neutral switch, we'll just keep that on. Transmission over temp, we'll keep that on. Wideband, yep. And I have set up the high boost, low boost, which is here. So we're looking for boost trim. Beautiful. Alright, so we've got the wideband, the boost trim, the onboard map sensor. Beautiful. Cool. Done and done. I am going to set this up once I key on the car again, We'll set that up again. Map is the onboard map, so we don't need to worry about this. Coolant temp. Let's have a look. What? We had an issue with this one, and it was reading 92. Yeah. Let's open up the factory calibrations for this. So it is a GM coolant temp sensor. Here we go. Alright, so that should be sweet. Air temp. Alright, so the O2 wideband. So this is a Spartan. I'm going to go on my mobile and just have a look at the voltage scaling and see if this is set up correctly. This is important, the AFR and voltage scaling, so that way the sensor is calibrated to a certain voltage to output a certain AFR. And this is what we're telling the Haltech, is that this meets that. Now, if this was out, then the sensor would be reading as it does, but the Haltech is going to be reading it differently. So it's important that this is as per the factory specifications. And I have, so the linear output. So 0 volt is 10, beautiful, and 5 volt is 20. Yep, beautiful. All right, so this is set up correctly. Excellent. We'll leave that as is. All right, so this is where I was saying the high boost, low boost switch. This is as easy as that, okay? So we've got a switch, okay? So if there's 5 volts, there's no trim. Now, we've got it set up on a switch, so we've got ignition, and then as soon as you flick that button, there's going to be no trim. And that no trim is this here. So let's just say we had 50% duty cycle in the boost controller, and we had the switch on. That's our high boost, right? And with the switch off, that's going to reflect, and this is what we're going to see. So with the switch off, it's going to take out all, and we're going to be running gate pressure. And then with the switch on, it's going to be running as per our duty cycle map in the Haltech.